Welcome to What Your Money Would Say with Andrew McNair. If you're close to retirement, Andrew is here to help you speak the language of your money. He'll help you learn about strategies for creating income in retirement, managing your wealth, and minimizing taxes. Welcome to What Your Money Would Say with Andrew McNair.
It's a saying we're all familiar with. The only thing that stays the same is change. So how can you keep life's curveballs from derailing your retirement? That's our topic today. Welcome to What Your Money Would Say. I'm Kelly Dame. Today, joining me, Andrew McNair, founder of Swan Capital. And Andrew, I'm so glad that you're here today because we know there are so many changes to keep track of in retirement. It can be daunting.
Very hard to hit all those curveballs, and that's what we're going to talk about today.
Okay, so let's dive right in. We know that this is a big topic, trying to plan for a 20 to 30-year retirement. A lot can happen in that time. And it may sound challenging, but when you think about all the different scenarios that may play out, there are some solutions out there. So let's talk about how we can manage these curveballs in retirement.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it can be really overwhelming because you're going to be permanently unemployed for potentially 10, 20, 30 years. And so we really have to piece together someone's income plan, put it into bite-sized pieces that can be manageable. Because if we're not careful, most people look to retirement as where they have one big melting pot, like a maple tree where they've put a spigot to it and they hope that the maple syrup never runs dry. We need to have an income plan that's built out that will not run dry.
Okay, so let's spend a little bit more time here. What goes into this type of planning approach?
Yeah, that's a great question. So when we're building a plan, and if you're trying to do it at home, here are the items that you'll want to have. One, you'll want to have an investment policy statement, something that you stick to the good times and the bad times. You want to have an estate and legacy plan, a healthcare and long-term care plan, as well as something for asset protection, because all of those components coming together is what facilitates an overall financial plan.
Let's take this a step further. You don't only need, I should say, a legacy plan or a tax plan, but you need your legacy plan and your tax plan. It's so important to have a customized approach, right? You can't just do a one-size-fits-all with retirement.
No, I mean, you can't copy off someone's notes. Mm-hmm. It didn't work in high school and it doesn't work for retirement either. So we have to make sure that you have a custom financial plan that is for your spouse to utilize when you're no longer here, for your kids to follow when you're no longer here. And this is why we stress that every family, even if they're not working with us, has one of these financial plans. In this binder has my trust. It has my portfolio. It has my real estate holdings in here. Why? Because if something happens to me, I don't want a 1,000-piece puzzle thrown up for Natasha, my wife, to put back together. No,
she wouldn't be happy.
No. She'd be like, "You're my financial guy and you blew it." No, so we don't want that as our legacy. So every client has one of these binders in this financial plan, because if something happens to you, your kids, your grandkids will be able to go to this binder, go see the financial planners at Swan Capital, our estate planning attorney and CPA, and say, they got it. You don't have to focus on having all the answers.
It's so nice to just have it all right there, and it kind of makes you feel accomplished when it gets a little weight to it, right? Like you've got a solid plan put
tangible.
Together.
You know, when we're doing financial planning, sometimes we walk away with nothing but some statements that we get once a month, but we need something tangible to give to our spouse and our kids.
So again, we are talking about 20, 30-year retirement and how a lot can happen over that course. So is this binder one of the ways that you help people prepare? If so, what are some other ways as well?
Well, one is estate planning and legacy planning. So when we sit down with a family, we have an estate planning attorney that'll sit alongside us, and he'll talk about having your basics put together. That is a living will to make those end-of-life decisions easier and not a burden on our kids. I mean, no one wants to be a burden on their kids or grandkids. And so that living will does that. A medical and financial power of attorney. So if you're demented or incapacitated, a loved one could make those important decisions while you can't. And then a last will and testament. Those are the basics. Now, some people may need something optional like a trust. And so if you've thought about, do I need a trust? Do I need a life estate on my house so it doesn't go through probate? Our team of financial planners alongside our estate planning attorney will guide you and your family on determining what you do need and what you don't need.
Yeah, your team that you mentioned, you have a lot of different aspects covered when it comes to retirement. And plot twist, You also have sleep studies, but not the one you guys are thinking of. Tell us about that.
Yeah, it's not for sleep apnea equipment. It's to make sure that we can all sleep well at night financially, because honestly, there's a lot of things that can keep us up at night. I mean, I don't have to tell you, but if you're watching the news on a regular basis, I mean, it is anything but soothing. And so if you're up at night, this hour of the night, thinking about how can I retire and stay retired, this is the planning that we do day in and day out, specialized for retirement planning.
So what goes into that sleep study, if you will?
Yeah, so what we do is basically we give you a retirement readiness report card. We make sure that you have straight A's going into retirement with your estate planning, tax planning, income planning, long-term care planning. And if there's items that need to be addressed, for example, you do not have a written down income plan going into retirement, we'll say, hey, this is a C that needs to be dealt with.
So you're telling me it's never too late to get straight A's. It's still possible for me in
There's
my
one last
age.
chance right before retirement.
Good. I'm going to go for it through and through. All right. Well, thank you so much, Andrew, for those insights. We've got a lot more coming. Again, talking about those curveballs and change in retirement. So also coming up, it is one thing to try to plan around your own personal circumstances, but geopolitical conflict and policy changes overseas and here at home can also impact your future. Andrew helps you navigate those changes coming up next. What Your Money Would Say continues right after this.
How does your future look in retirement? When you don't have a strategy, the future might look a little fuzzy. But with someone asking the right questions and helping you learn where you truly stand, it can become easier to work towards your goals. You need a plan to help generate income that will last as long as you need it. And the first step to creating an income plan is an analysis of where you are now. Let us help you bring your retirement into focus with your free income analysis today.
Welcome back. I'm here with Andrew McNair, and today we are discussing how planning can help you stay on track when life throws you a curveball. And Andrew, we know it's one thing to have a plan around our own personal circumstances, but there are things that are out of our control, which can be really hard. I like control.
And there's so many things that are outside of our control. And the worst part is the news cycle makes us feel like we can be in control. But the issue is when you look at the issues that are always on the news cycle, things like, I don't know, a civil war in a distant country. What can I do about that? Or maybe the manic depressive market. What can I do about the state of the economy? The only thing I can actually control is my own personal economy. And what about Congress and how they're changing tax policy? I can't control that. But what I can control is my tax diversification as a family. I can control where my investments are and how they're going to be taxed. And so hopefully we'll get to dig into a little bit more of that.
Okay, so when you think about things like inflation or making sure that you're not exposed to too much risk, how do you help? That's a balancing act, right? So how do you help people find what that right balance is for them?
Certainly. So we can't control inflation or the cost of living, but what we can do is get our money to work for us, to get us off out of this couch, our money, and actually have that money work for us. And this is what we do with clients' lazy money is we say, hey, you're in a CD that's earning 3 or 4%, but it could be making 5 or 6%. Well, on a few dollars, that doesn't make a difference. But on hundreds of thousands of dollars or $1 million, you're talking sizable interest difference that over time, and that's the insidious part of inflation, is it's kind of like watching grass grow underneath your feet. You don't see much change. But inflation, if we're not careful, if our money's not growing faster than that, we'll get taken over by the weeds.
When we think about risk, and everyone's tolerance is probably a little bit different. Everyone can see the weeds maybe growing a little faster than others. So how do you work with different personalities, and how do you help figure out kind of not just what makes the most sense for them, but kind of how they feel about what makes the most sense for them?
Yeah, and imagine the dynamics of a married couple.
Yeah, for sure.
What we do is we don't use the terms conservative, moderate, and aggressive. Those are really old school terms. So we throw those out and we replace it with a risk score. Everyone here should know what their risk score is as a family, and make sure that they know what their spouse's risk score is. From 0 to 100, I want to make sure that my wife, Natasha, if she likes to drive in the school zone, that we have some part of our money in our portfolio driving in a school zone to make her happy. But also, if I like to drive on the Autobahn, that's fine. Maybe I like to take a little bit more risk. And by marrying those two together, by having investments that solve for both extremes, then you can have a portfolio that's not going to derail if we actually have manic depressive markets.
It's finding those compromises too. We were just talking about how you and your wife like to travel, and you travel a little different.
That's
you got to
right.
find what works best for both of you. So one of the other things when we think about what we can't control, taxes. Uncle Sam, what's going to happen there? So how do you help people think about and maybe take a little bit more control when it comes to specifically taxes in retirement?
Certainly. So we work with our client CPA and the in-house CPA that we have in our office. And what we want to do is take clients' investments and over a 3, 5, or 7-year period, start shifting them to more tax-free investments. There are actually 5 tax-free investments. There's HSAs, health savings accounts, that are triple tax advantaged. We have Roth 401ks, Roth TSPs, Roth IRAs, then we have municipal bonds, and then we have life insurance. Those are the only 5 tax-free investments that exist. So over time, we want to gradually push clients to where they're tax-free so that they're not at the mercy of what tax rates are in the future.
How big of a deal can taxes be in retirement?
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, Publix, the grocery stores don't ask for, gross income. They ask for net income. So in retirement, it matters what your net income is going to be after the tax man takes their toll. And so we want to shrink that as much as we can. It's nice in Florida and in Alabama, we have very low or no state income tax, but we still have to worry about federal taxes. I mean, Denny's gives a senior discount, but the IRS doesn't.
If only. Wouldn't that be so nice?
That would be nice.
Yeah, the exact opposite it feels like sometimes. So when there may be some people at home thinking, okay, I know that I want a little bit more control. There are some curveballs that life may throw at me. I want to start putting my plan together. What does that look like if they say, okay, Andrew, I really want to come in. I want to work with you, but I'm unsure of what that process is going to look like.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people have this expectation. It might be like a dentist visit. Like we're going to shine the light right over your head. Painful and exposing, right? Because the bright light's in your eyes. And then they always want to talk to you while you have something in your mouth, which is impossible to do. So what we do instead of that experience, we say, instead of locking the door, telling you about some annuity of the week, the stock of the week, the read of the week, no, what we do is we sit down with you. You have a 2-page questionnaire. You have really basically a complimentary hour with one of my financial planners to make sure that we get all your questions asked about retirement. But then we go through that SWAN questionnaire trying to look for ways that you can improve your finances. And then we walk away at the end shaking hands saying, hey, you can look this up on Google and try to fix it yourself. You can tell your advisor how to do their job, or you could hire us and then we talk about what that could look like. But there's no hard pressure, sales, or anything like that.
So glad you mentioned going to the dentist, right? I'm like, why are you asking me this question right now? Maybe they are able to comprehend what I'm saying. Who knows? Right. But you mentioned that SWAN checklist, and I love your name has meaning, right? Of Swan Capital. Talk a little bit about what SWAN stands for.
Yeah, so I give my dad all the credit. So when we were sitting down, I said, I started doing this at 14, started seeing my own clients at 18. And I said, I don't want to name it after myself. Honestly, I wanted to be about the clients, and I wanted to live longer than my life expectancy too. So I said, Dad, I really want them to have peace of mind. I don't want them to worry about money. Money doesn't worry about us. It doesn't even talk about us. We talk a lot about money, and that's why we call it What Your Money Would Say. But I want families to sleep well at night in retirement. And he said SWAN, and I said, brilliant. That's where it is. And that's how it started.
Dad, that's it. Dad's good for a lot of different stuff.
Many
I
ways.
love that story. Well, Andrew shares straight ahead his retirement checklist to help you prepare for life's changes. That is next in Money Talks Minute. And still to come, Andrew answers some of your most pressing retirement questions. Stay tuned. You're watching What Your Money Would Say. We'll be back.
On the surface, your retirement plan might look solid. With your 401k or IRA, Social Security, investments, and insurance coverage, you appear to have it all covered. But what could you be missing? Below the surface, is your retirement exposed to too much risk? It's time for a deeper dive into your portfolio. We can help you uncover the risk that lies beneath the surface and learn about strategies to help preserve your savings. Get your free risk analysis today.
When it comes to planning for the future, time may not always be on your side. Think about your taxes. Tax rates are historically low right now, but they'll likely be higher in the future. With the right planning and strategy, you might be able to cut your tax bill in the years to come. But don't wait until it's too late to take advantage of today's lower tax rates. Let us be your partner in planning for tomorrow so you can enjoy your retirement today.
In today's Money Talks Minute, as we talk about trying to prepare for life's curveballs, Andrew shares what you might need on your retirement checklist. Andrew?
Thanks, Kelly. I want to talk on our Money Talks Minute today about your retirement checklist. Maybe you're trying to build your retirement plan at home. And if you have a pen and paper, I want to go through what every financial plan must consist of, in my humble opinion, to have a put together financial plan for you and your family. And I believe every financial plan must begin with income. Why is income number one? Because you can't have a retirement without income. You can have assets, but not necessarily a retirement that lasts. So it must begin with an income plan. Now, this income plan must inventory all of your current income, future income, and also an untimely passing of both spouses. And this is so incredibly important because I hope you live to be 120 or as long as you want to live, but I think it's important that your plan does not stop short of if one of you were to pass away prematurely. And that's what a good income plan does, is it assumes both spouses could pass away shortly and it could also live a very long time. The next is an emergency fund. It's very important to have 3 to 6 months of liquid assets, cash equivalents that you could get to in a very short period of time. And this must be adjusted for inflation. And here's why. Most of the families I deal with day in and day out either have too little cash or too much cash. And so if you have a situation where you have $200,000, $300,000, maybe even $600,000 of cash equivalents that's sitting on the retirement sidelines that are not keeping pace with inflation, you are earning interest, but not enough interest to combat inflation on the long term. So you need to have that proper emergency fund. Number 3 is tax efficiency. I believe that you need to have a tax strategy in conjunction with your financial plan, not just investment plan, but a tax plan. And this is why we have a CPA in an office, and we encourage you to make sure that your CPA and financial advisor are working in tandem. Sadly, most financial professionals, they just swim in their own swim lane and they never look over the ropes. So it's important to make sure your tax strategy looks at your taxes from what we call drone footage, from an aerial footage looking at your investments from the 4 different types of taxes: taxable, tax deferred, like a qualified account, non-qualified, and tax-free. And looking at that pie chart, you should see a bunch of different types of taxation. Next is investment strategy. A lot of people, they have investments, but that's not an investment strategy. An investment strategy is a game of chess where you have to stay 3 steps, ideally, faster than and above, again, your opponents. Who are your opponents? Uncle Sam with taxation, but also the manic depressive markets, as well as the different trends in cycles with the real estate market, interest rates, as well as oil prices, for example. Next is healthcare. You want to make sure that you have thought through, are you going to stay with TRICARE? Are you going to go with FEHB as a federal employee? Or are you going to go with Medicare or Medicare Advantage? And then what are you going to do until you reach age 65? This is a healthcare plan where we help families share all of the best practices that we've accumulated by working with hundreds of retirees to share with them the pros and cons of their various healthcare options that might be available to you. As we come to a close in this retirement checklist, you want to also make sure that you have a long-term care plan, and that may include long-term care insurance or long-term care hybrid, or maybe you're going to self-insure. And then last is estate planning. You need to have a good estate plan, and that includes a power of attorney, a living will, and a last will, and maybe other things like a trust or a life estate. That is going to be a complete retirement checklist to make sure that you and your family have a comprehensive plan going into retirement. So if you're doing this alone, I hope you were taking really good notes. And if you have a financial professional but have never had a second look at these various aspects of your retirement plan, I encourage you to give our office a call to get that complimentary review. Back to you, Kelly.
Have a question about retirement? Don't go anywhere. Andrew has the answers. That's coming up in our Q&A segment. What Your Money Would Say continues right after this.
Planning for retirement can be complicated. Helping create income that lasts, making sure your health care is covered, investing while managing risk, and don't forget about taxes. If you're overwhelmed, you're not alone. The good news is we have what you need to give you confidence to start planning for your ideal retirement, all in one convenient resource. You'll get answers to some of your biggest retirement questions in this easy-to-understand, practical resource. And best of all, there's no cost to you. Take the first step toward a confident retirement and get yours today.
Welcome back. You probably have questions about retirement. I think we've got answers here today. Andrew is ready to answer them. You do this all day, right? So first question is from Clark. I am 64 years old. My wife and I still have term life insurance. We're wondering if it would be best to find a different type of insurance that could take us into retirement. Could you give us your input?
Yeah, absolutely. So Clark, when you look at life insurance most of the time is term. It's there for a term. 98% of term does not pay out. Remember that life insurance companies are in the money collection business, not the money payout business. So many times families get to retirement and they've lived longer than their term has met their expiration, and now they have no life insurance in retirement. And many families, they just need the confirmation that at this point when the kids have flown the coop and because of their asset situation that you're self-insured. And so regardless of who you work with, make sure that your financial advisor has given advice to the situation to see if you need to continue that life insurance longer based on your income plan, or do you have an income plan that's self-insured?
Okay, our next question is from Deb, who asks, my husband has several emergency fund bank accounts with more than enough money to cover 6 months of income in the event of an emergency. I'm curious about other options that would earn higher interest for us. Could you give me some examples, please?
Certainly. So Deb, you are in good company. There's a lot of families out there that have more than their emergency fund. And this is one of those things in our sleep study where we could give someone a C for actually having too much cash. Believe it or not, it can be a bad thing to have too much cash. So we all need an emergency fund. I call it the Job exercise, not to be confused with the job exercise. So if your car were to be sadly stolen, your house explodes, your dog dies, you both get sick, you need to have an emergency fund. And for some families, it's $30,000, $50,000, maybe $100,000 as emergency fund. But I meet with families that sometimes have as much as $2 million sitting there in cash. What a good problem to have, but that money is inefficient. It's basically lazy money that's sitting in a couch and not working for you. So it's really important when we work with families to make sure that they have their money working for them so that as inflation continues to rise, what it feels like in this economy, that your money's not treading water, but rising above inflation.
For those who are just joining us, you mentioned the sleep study. Tell us more about what that entails.
Yeah, so the sleep study is this retirement report card that we give every family. When they meet with us for 2 times, we're going to sit down with them, understand their goals, their desires, and what they have planned for retirement. And then we go through estate planning, tax planning, income planning, long-term care planning to make sure that they are retirement ready. And if you got straight A's going into retirement, indeed, you're retirement ready.
4.0. That's what we're all hoping for. Well, this next question is from Joe, and Joe asks, what might be the best investments for someone who is 61, healthy, and wanting to retire as soon as possible?
Yes, so when you're looking at your own investments, I want you to use this acronym. I mean, I know they didn't teach this stuff in school. If they taught Wealth 101, I must have been skipping school and going to the beach that day because no one taught me when I investigate an investment, I have to look at PLR, protection, liquidity, and return. And the issue is that PLR is not existent in every single investment. At Swan Capital, we don't offer an investment that's perfectly protected, liquid, and has a high return. That's called a Ponzi scheme. No investment has that. What we have to do is when we build an investment policy statement for each and every client, we want to match multiple investments together that have two of the three, where maybe one has protection, it has liquidity, but not the return. And so by marrying those all together, then that client can have all three.
Let's talk about the importance of that customized plan and why you should be wary of any that are out there that are cookie cutter and one size fits all.
Yeah, so many times families say, well, I think I have a financial plan, and they'll bring out this very boilerplate plan that was just printed out of a computer that really is not custom, and it doesn't actually fix all the comprehensive issues of a tax planning, estate planning. It's basically a summary or elongated net worth statement, and that doesn't really help anyone. So when we build a custom financial plan, I'm sharing all of the best practices after doing this for nearly 2 decades with exclusively retirees.
I love too, when you do put together that plan, you also get a hefty binder. And I say hefty in a good way. It is just so you've got it. And I want to show this to our viewers just to give them an idea. It's just a nice tangible feel of the work that you're doing for your retirement.
Yeah, it's very tangible. You can put your hands on it. And what's nice about this financial plan is every client should have this in their house. Maybe they have the originals somewhere in a safe, but this is a living, breathing binder so that when we do reviews with clients, we're making sure that we're updating the estate plan. We're adding new financial statements in here so that if something happens to you, your kids don't have like 19 junk drawers to go through. They got one binder that they can turn to. And we've seen that so many times where families either have too little or they have too much, and that is quite a burden for their kids.
Yeah, I can think about all the loose papers that are just hanging out in the filing cabinets now. So, all right, our last question. This one is from William, and William says, I own several rental properties that I'm planning to use for retirement income. What are my options for a backup plan in case I decide not to be a landlord anymore?
Yeah, so, we are kindred spirits. So at one time I had 54 houses, 136 apartments here on the Gulf Coast, and I had hair back then. And so when we were managing the properties, they were very profitable, but you have decision fatigue. Like I had to decide, what color to paint this, who was going to change the toilet in the middle of the weekend. And so all of this can really weigh you down when you get into your 60s and your 70s and you're finally thinking about retirement. You don't have to worry about who is actually paying rent and who isn't. So we sit down with families and we can speak one-on-one on each property and look through the ROI calculation, the ROA calculation to determine, does this property need to stay in the portfolio? Do you need to increase the rent? I've had to push a few clients and saying, hey, you're not charging market rent on this property. And then some, they ultimately need to be sold so that them and their spouse can both have more confidence in retirement, not being a landlord.
It's the hair of the houses. You can't have them both.
No, you can't.
All right, well, that is our show. We made it. So appreciate, as always, the wonderful information that you shared with our viewers.
My pleasure.
And if you want to learn ways to generate lifetime income, potentially reduce your tax bill, and maintain your lifestyle in retirement, reach out now. Andrew and the team are ready to help you start building a retirement plan that is designed to help you flourish in retirement. For Andrew and the team at Swan Capital, I'm Kelly Dane. We look forward to seeing you next time on What Your Money Would Say.